found the second one a lot harder to write. They cannot take away from you Sunday Times best-selling author.
That's what they all want.
Someone who's been a great source of help, really, has been Marion Keyes. And I said to Marion, I'm struggling with this second book. And she's like, that's great. That's how it should be. That's the way you shouldn't be finding it easy. Right. And then I said, well, does it get easier after that? She went, no.
Hello, welcome to the final episode of season 1 of Books on the Beach. And I can think of no finer person than to bring season 1 to a conclusion. She's been on British television for over 40 years, which in itself is a remarkable feat in a very aggressive marketplace. Her debut novel, The Island Swimmer, came out in 2024. And now 2 years on, we're back in Orkney with Evie and Freya in the follow-up, which is called The Island Secret. And I'm delighted to tell you, in fact, I'm beyond excited to tell you that in our lovely little studio in Manchester is the Queen of Television, National Treasure, Lorraine Kelly.
What a build-up. That was great. The Queen of Television, I shall take that.
It's all true, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
All true. How are you doing, first of all?
Really, really well. Yeah.
Can you remember
great.
how you felt when Island Swimmer came out? And are you a bit more comfortable now that it's your second book? Do you get used to what's expected on a kind of author promo tour?
I suppose a wee bit, although I found the second one a lot harder to write. I think the first one, well, I did what most rookie writers do, and I overwrote. I mean, when I printed it out, you know, the sort of raw, unedited version, when I printed it out, it was huge. Right. People staggering under the weight.
How many words was it?
Oh, gosh, honestly, it was probably about 150,000. It was nuts. It was 2 books really in one.
So if I'd let you know, the average book's 90 to 100. 100,000's a long book. So if you've done 150,
it was crazy. And sadly, I couldn't keep any of it for the second one, which was a great shame, because it was all, I needed to edit it back. And I think that's quite a normal mistake for a first-time book. But I think I expected more of myself with this one because I didn't really know how the first one was going to go.
Right.
And I was so happy that it did well.
Yeah.
I know it really is. I mean, they cannot take away from you Sunday Times best-selling author.
That's what they all want.
That is, but it's very grown up. Very grown up. Jeez. But that was amazing. But I think the second one, I suppose you've got more expectations. You're a little bit... You overthink.
Well, bands always talk about the difficult second album, don't they?
Yes, they do. And it's exactly the same. And I'm lucky that I get to talk to a lot of authors. And someone who's been a great source of help, really, has been Marion Keyes. And I said to Marion, I'm struggling with this second book. And she's like, that's great. That's how it should be. That's the way you shouldn't be finding it easy. Right. And then I said, well, does it get easier after that? She went, no. So that was fine.
Can I ask you to elaborate on the word struggling? Was it storyline? Was it crafting? Was it getting the words on?
It was everything. It was just, second guessing plot lines. Once I was up and running, I was away, it was fine. But it was getting started. It was sort of visualising the story and getting there from A to B to Z at the end. Yeah. And of course, in the first one, I thought, oh, well, you just do that. You just go straight ahead. It's like a train on a track, and it isn't, because you go all sorts of different ways and you get to know your characters better. And, you find that, they're not going to do that, so I need to find a different way. And it's such a huge learning process. It really is, because it's so different from the day job. So different. Although the day job helped me a lot.
I would think so, because you're dealing with stories and narrative all the time, aren't you?
Exactly.
Whether it's planning an interview or whether it's dealing with a response to and
it's also dealing with people, and people are complex and difficult sometimes, and lovely, and sometimes a pain in the bum. So all of that. So there's nobody in the book that's made of somebody. It's like lots of different characters from people I think that I've met over the years that stuck with me.
They're composites, aren't they?
Very much so, very much so.
So I want to just rewind a bit more. I think this is really fascinating because you all do it differently, right? So how much of a plotter are you? Are you someone with whiteboards in the house and are you making notes on stuff, or do you just sit there and go, right, first draft, I'm just going to pour it out and see what...
I think it's just get the words down. Just get the words down, and then you can polish and polish and polish. And of course, your editors wrote to grab it out of your hand, because, I'd still be polishing it now. It was
listen, you're not alone there. David Nichols said he would still polish one day, and it was massive, wasn't it?
Gosh, but that was perfect.
Yeah.
That just shows you, doesn't it?
His theory is that if you're a writer, you're never finished.
Yeah, and you're never satisfied.
Yeah.
Because when I did the audiobook for this, when it'd been all put to bed, and a few weeks later I did the audiobook, and I was like, I should have said this differently, or I should have done that differently.
Yeah.
And I noticed a couple of wee teeny tiny grammatical errors, which I was really annoyed about because I didn't get them the first time. But it's different when you're reading it, when you're doing it. And I really enjoyed doing the audiobook.
How long does that take then?
It took a couple of days, like 2 big sessions. Just after when I'd finished the show, I just went straight to the recording studios. But I didn't attempt the Orcadian accent or attempt to be in character or attempt to do a big gruff voice like a big man.
You read my mind. I was going to ask if you characterised
it. I know. It was, I suppose a wee tiny bit, but I really enjoyed doing that. It was great. And I couldn't have imagined anyone else doing it in a sense because I'd done the first one. It seemed silly to get someone else to do the second one. So I was very happy to do that. It was great.
Yeah, so some authors, if they've got a vast array of characters, sometimes even get 2 actors in to do the voice.
And I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can understand that completely.
I'm so pleased you did it yourself because your voice is so familiar to us.
I guess.
Why would you?
I know, but I don't sound Orcadian. But in the book, I didn't want to do it in an Orkney dialect, totally Orkney dialect, because that would have been overkill in a way. But I just wanted to scatter a few wee words so that people would get.
Well, I've written some down. Should we go through some of those?
Yeah.
I've made a note of some of them.
The one everybody always says is PD.
Yeah, there's
PD
lots
for little.
Yeah, which you have to say carefully, don't you, out loud?
PD, a PD this, a PD that. But everybody says PD in Orkney.
Bluted.
Oh, that's being drunk, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, being drunk. Blutered is a great word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's you can just see somebody's blutered. It's better than saying, oh, somebody's a bit tipsy. You say they're blutered, and that's proper. That's somebody that's drank a lot.
I'm laughing because you say it with such venom.
Absolutely.
When you say it.
Blutered.
I noticed the Scottish dialect words, or they're not slang words because they're actual words, aren't they? But I wondered, did you ever think about going full Irving Welsh with it, where you would write it in a... Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes,
if you read an Irving Welsh
I
novel, you almost have to... I have to read it in my head in a Scottish accent.
You do. You absolutely do. You're 100% right. I think because I'm not from Orkney, I don't think it would have been authentic enough.
Right.
If I was writing it in Glaswegian, that's totally different, and I probably could do that. But I was always aware of that I want as many people to read it and appreciate it and get it.
Yes.
And I'm not Irving Welsh, I'm really not. I couldn't write like that. He's amazing. But yeah, that works for him, and that worked in that context. Of course it did. But yeah, I wanted people to have a sense of what Orkney's like, because Orkney, very much in the second book as well as the first one, is a character almost.
Yeah, of course it is.
The setting has got an awful lot to do with the characters come from where they're from, if you know what I mean. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. It's very much at the heart of the story.
Well, it's the landscape as well, I felt, and the climate, and when there's not as many swimming scenes in this as the first book, but when they go for a dip, you can sense the chill coming off the page, can't you? Which is really nice.
It is cold up there. I mean, the times that I've swam up there, and the first time I did it, years and years ago, I put a wetsuit on. What a wuss! Oh, I was shamed.
Oh, were you?
Shamed.
What are you supposed to wear then? Just your
cosy,
right.
Yeah, your itsy bitsy,
right?
Whatever you want to wear. But yeah, no, wetsuits are for wusses. So I was soon told, no, you have to just go in there and suck it up. And it's great, and you do feel tingly, and it just does wonders for you.
Do you have to really work on your breathing when the cold takes your breath away?
Sometimes. I mean, I did do cold water swimming. Probably one of the first times was in Antarctica. I did it then, and that was freezing. I mean, you can imagine how cold that was, and it does take your breath away, and you do have to be really careful. But yeah, I just found it really, I don't know, it just takes you to a different place. I did a documentary about Dunblane, and it was about the tragedy and going back to see how the families were doing and how things had changed and where we were. And one of the fathers that I talked to, his son had been killed. He found real solace in swimming. In wild water swimming. He said he felt very close to his wee boy when he was doing that. So when I interviewed him, we actually did it in the water. And it was an amazing interview because it was very, very spiritual, actually. And he really opened up and was able to talk to me in a way that I don't think he would have been able to in a conventional interview. So, and it was just to show that, that had really helped him mentally, because obviously all the parents and families dealt with it in their own way. We're all different how we approach things. But for him, that was a real healing process. And I wanted to show that as well in the book, that, when Evie, the character Evie, who in the first book, a terrible traumatic thing happens and she leaves Orkney. Then she has to go back and rebuild those relationships. And an awful lot of that was getting solace from being with the other swimmers. The Selkies, as they're called, which the Selkie is a word for a mythical half woman, half seal creature. Right. So, from mythology. Right. So they're called the Selkies. And it was to try and show that as well a little bit, that it can be healing, not just physically, but mentally you feel better in yourself.
So let's get to the nub of the island secret then, which you say you struggled with, although in hearing you talking about it now, it doesn't feel like it was that much of a struggle anymore. But so Amelia's come to Orkney to try and trace her family.
Yeah.
So when at the beginning of the book, we're on a dual timeline, aren't we? Because we go back to get a bit of background of her family and how her family relates to Evie's family. And we're not giving anything away to say that they look alike, right? Evie was struck by their similarity, like looking in a mirror, you write quite early on in the book.
It's very strange, and we find out why that is and how that's been manipulated. I mean, at the start of the book, Evie's doing really well. You know, she's reconnected with everyone, she's made friends with everyone, she's got these bonds again, she's part of the community, a community that she ran away from, and then felt that she didn't deserve very much. So she was in a bad relationship in London and in a job that, you know, really didn't suit her. But she's back, she's in Orkney, she's painting again, you know, she's got the gallery with Freya. Things are looking up, and then wham, she gets this email from this woman, Amelia, saying that she's in America and that she thinks that she might be related. And it's how someone can just manipulate others, you know, especially when people are kind and decent, and how somebody can just be that, you know, that little worm in the rose and just sort of ruin everything. And she really does. But I wanted to show why she's like that, which is why we've got the dual timelines and why we go back in time to her story. Because, you know, there is this thing of, are you born bad or are you made bad? Are you born a bad person, or are circumstances, childhood, whatever, shape you like that? And I think it's a little bit of both, actually. I do. And I think with her, I wanted to show how you get to be that manipulative and that sly and that entitled, that you think that you deserve everything without actually doing anything for it.
So was that the jumping off point for the story?
Yeah, I think so. It was just people who don't really work for what they have. And that was the kind of idea. I mean, I wasn't finished with these characters. I mean, I wasn't always going to revisit them, but I really wasn't finished with them, because at the end of the book there was a lot of loose ends. Everything wasn't tied up in a big red bow, because
but that was by design, right?
Life isn't. You know, I didn't want it to be that. I didn't want it to be a traditional sort of love story, or, you know, she toddles off into the sunset happily ever after, because that doesn't really happen and it's overrated anyway. And I want it to be a bit deeper than that. You know, I want it to be obviously to be a story that people will read and people will enjoy and people will want to turn the pages, and there's, you know, twists and turns and all of that. But I wanted it to be a bit deeper than just a love story, because it isn't really that. You know, it's more about relationships between lots of different people. You know, whether it's relationships like, you know, Evie's got a very, very fractured relationship with her sister, her older sister, in a way that my brother and I had when I was tiny.
Is that right?
Yeah, when I was little. I was 6 when Graham was born. And I was a spoiled brat because I was the only grandchild. And I mean, the sun shone out of my behind. And of course, that makes you a little bit of a pain in the bottom. So then along comes my brother. Now, picture the scene. He is fat, blonde, curls, massive big blue eyes. And you know that way that kids look like they've got elastic bands all the way up their arms and legs because they're the folds, the chubbiness. Yeah. From central casting, this kid. He was so beautiful and I loathed him. Almost from the word go. I just loathed him and I used to nip him.
Because he was diluting your attention?
And it's like, who is this usurper that's taking up my mother's attention? And everybody goes, oh, isn't he gorgeous? And I'm like, excuse me? So we get on brilliantly now and always have. I mean, when we became teenagers, it was fine.
Okay, right.
But we fought like cat and dog. And until, you know, till he was able to actually fight me back, then it was fine. Then it was a truce and it was okay. And we got on really well after that. And he's like one of my best friends, even though he's my brother. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But when he was tiny, and I wanted to use that feeling of being usurped. And that very much is the feeling that Liv has about Evie, you know, because Evie came along as the golden child and dad loved her and she's called Teeny and, you know, she's got that relationship with her dad. I mean, her mum was kind of not really there. That was another aspect to the relationships, which I think is really interesting. When people withdraw, like, you know, their mother, you know, Cara just withdrew from everything, from the love of her husband to her children to her friends. She just couldn't accept people's love. She pushed it away. And I see people like that, you know, and it's really hard. And you think, why are you doing this? You're sabotaging yourself and your own happiness. So there's lots of little bits of people that I've met over the years. And the little horrible bit of me that was horrid to my little brother, that he still brings up to this day.
Well, good.
Obviously.
So he should, Graham.
So he should, absolutely. I remember saying to my mother, can you not send him back? And she's like, not really. It would really be a good thing to do.
You've not kept the receipt.
And he's such a great guy. I mean, he's brilliant.
Oh, that's really nice. Quite early on, I want to talk to you a bit about Freya.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, was in the first book. A line from very early in this novel, Freya was a wise woman. There weren't many left who remembered she'd once played on the beach on the island of Rossi.
Yeah, Rossi. Yeah. It's Westry, but it's Rossi.
As a little boy called Magnus. Yes. That was several lifetimes ago. And the fact she happened to be a trans woman was the least interesting thing about her.
Absolutely. It really is.
I really liked that sentence. And the reason I liked it is because from trans people that I've met, they say, especially about fiction or drama on the television, we'd like to be represented, but we don't want it to be all about trans. We just want to be in a drama.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
And almost that's like by the by, in the same way that, oh, well, that person's got blonde hair or green eyes or whatever. And that's
what you've done with this?
Well, I wanted, because there's been an awful lot of, you know, on both sides, just people throwing stones at one another. And it's horrible, because any trans people that I know just want to go on with their lives. That's all they want to do. They just want to get on with their lives, have a good life, and be happy, because that's all we all are content. Because I always think contentment is underrated. You know, everybody goes on about being happy, but actually being content and peace of mind. Well, happiness
is sometimes an elusive goal, isn't it?
Yeah. And
how do you know when you've got it, and how do you know how long it's going to last for? People think it's like the end level of a computer game, but it's not, is it? You can reach it, but then you might drop down a couple of levels.
Exactly, just be content.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show somebody who, that was then and this is now, and it's never really referred to that much. I mean, there is a little bit, she gets a little bit of hate in this book.
Yes.
But that's again through the manipulativeness of horrible Amelia. But it's really, I just really wanted to show somebody who everybody loves, and she's just Freya. She's just Freya. She can be infuriating. She can be lovely. She can be your best friend.
I got the impression reading this, Lorraine, she holds the friendship group together.
She really does. She's the heart. She's very much the heart of the
It's
book.
her 80th in this novel.
Yeah.
And so the celebrations for, and even those are like, she's into Minions and she's into kind of young music.
Take that.
And,
She likes a bit of Kylie.
Yeah.
Loves all of that. Yeah. I mean, it was like a toddler's birthday party.
Who's she based on? Who in your life do you know that's matriarchal but still...
I think a lot of it is my mother's mother, my grandmother, who's obviously no longer with us, but she was something. She was a force of nature. She was one of these people that she always said to me, don't keep anything for best. So she would be taking the bins out, swathed in tweed perfume, made up to the nines, with a big mantilla. She used to wear a mantilla. And I mean, she's Scottish, but she wore this big mantilla with a big veil on it and swanned around Disco Bride, and everybody knew her, you know, because she was like this mad, eccentric old lady. But I loved that. And I loved the fact that she would say to me, you know, if I'd say, I've got a new dress on, you know, I'll hold on to it. No. She said, no, wear it now. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to the town centre. Yeah, we'll go and wear it now. She would wear her best clothes to go and buy milk. And I loved that. So there's a little bit of Freya, definitely, my gran.
I think that's great. Because certainly in our family home, Mum and Dad have still got Chinaware I've only ever seen in a cupboard.
See,
it's never come out.
It's like, we'll keep that for base. Yeah. You know how everybody, well, we didn't, but because we only had 2 rooms, but a lot of people have got the parlour or the best room that you're not allowed in. And you think, what's the point of that?
We had 2 as well, so they were always in use, but the stuff was definitely not all out.
Oh, no. It would be locked away. It's crazy, right?
You mentioned the thing that blows up with Freya.
Yeah.
And again, we never do spoilers on this, so you'll be fine with this. But something blows up on social media, and Evie says it could be anyone. These people hide behind screens. They're ants with megaphones.
Yeah.
And I read that, and I thought, well, you must have had your fair share of that. Yet you're still very active on Instagram. So have you been able to find a nice balance where you can participate without getting the shit that comes back?
Yes, very much so. I used to be on Twitter, and then it turned into X, and I cannot even look at it. It is a cesspit. It's horrible. I mean, they're even horrible to David Attenborough. So that's when I think, How can you be horrible to David? I mean, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
But they're horrible to everybody, and it doesn't matter who you are. There's just people who want to have a pop at you. And I'm like, I don't want to give people like that my energy. I'll never forget watching that Harry and Meghan documentary that they did, and my toes were curling through most of it. Mm-hmm. But there was one bit where I just thought, what are you two doing? They were both sitting going through social media and looking at X as it is now. Mm-hmm. Why? Why are they doing that? Why on earth would they be doing that when they've got a beautiful life? They're both healthy. They've got 2 gorgeous children. They're living their life, right? They've got this amazing house, they've got chickens, they've got all sorts going on. And why would you give somebody in their basement, sitting there writing horrible things,
knowing they've hurt you?
Why would you do that? Yeah. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it at all.
So how do you manage your social media?
I just do it myself. I do Instagram myself.
Yeah. But you post, but then do you disable comments? Or are you just getting nice comments back?
I obviously get a few that are kind of horrid, which everybody does, and I just sort of get rid of them, delete them, or block them.
Yeah.
I tend to, when I was on Twitter, I wouldn't so much block people, I just mute them. Because if you mute them, they don't know that you've seen it. I think when you block someone, I'm not sure on Instagram because I'm a bit of a Luddite, but when you block somebody, I don't think they know. So that's fine. That's the equivalent of them ranting about you in an empty room.
Yeah,
and I just think it's really sad because social media used to be a place where people would go, does anybody know about this? Or could you tell me more about that? Or what do we think about this? But it was all kind of quite reasonable. And now it's got so polarised. I mean, we talked about the trans thing. It's got so polarised that everybody's on the edges shouting at each other. And nobody's in the middle going, fair point, but both, do you know what I mean?
Well, it's become tribal. I know exactly what you mean, because the previous episode was Chris Brookmeyer, and his latest Quite Ugly One Evening is all about this. It's all about confected anger and rage on the internet.
And everybody's so blinking angry now.
And what you hear now is a lot of people saying, oh, there's just too much news now. And he says, there's not too much news. It's just that there's more opinion on the news.
Yes, that's very, very true. And the doom scrolling thing is very bad for you. It's very bad
really
for you.
Bad,
I mean, sometimes that could be, we've all done it.
Yeah.
You sit there, maybe you're on a train, maybe you can't get to sleep, maybe you're whatever. Instead of picking up a good book.
Because you're Lorraine, I can confess to you, I do it when I'm on the bog.
Do you?
I do, and I feel I should.
Boys do that though, but that's bad for you.
Really? Well, it's in 2 ways, isn't it? It's bad for your mental health, and also it
bottom.
Can aggravate the hemorrhoids at the other end, can't it?
Exactly. You don't want to be doing that for your bottom. That's not a good thing. But you can lose an hour of your life.
I can't believe I just told you that.
No, it's fine.
Do you find people tell you stuff like that because you're Lorraine?
Sometimes people are really nice. People that come up to you and chat away to you. It's always quite funny when I'm out with my husband because, for shopping or whatever, or out for a meal or something, and folk come up and say hello, because I can see his mind going, how do I know this person? And I've forgotten their name. But of course he doesn't. He'll say, how do we know them? I say, no, they just like the show. And he says, yeah, but they were talking to you as if you were their pal. And I was like, yeah, but that's the joy. That's the lovely thing, that people will come and talk to me as if they know me. Well, they do know me because they've seen me on the telly for years.
Yeah.
And that's lovely.
Every day as well, by the way.
You don't get that. But, you really don't. There's only a few people that would get that. And it's a real privilege. It's lovely.
Yeah. Both Amelia and Evie were silent. They knew all too well how stories like this could get out of hand. More and more newspapers and online sites relied on clickbait stories to get readers' attention. I agree with.
Yeah.
It's driven friends of mine out of jobs because they were encouraged to put more and more clickbait up.
Geez.
But the thing with clickbait that I don't get as a journalist, I'd love to know your view on this, Lorraine, is it might work once or twice.
Yeah, but then people
get
wise to it.
When the third time you've clicked on it and it's horse shit, you're not going to click it again, are you?
No, you're not. And I think it's really sad that young journalists now just print anything. I mean, like a couple of weeks ago, I read that I was going to the BBC, which I'm sure was news to the BBC. It was certainly news to me. And then the next day I was staying at ITV. And now that doesn't matter. In the great scheme of things, that is nothing. But it makes me wonder what else that's important are they getting wrong?
Yes,
because people are chasing, like, we've got to be first. And there always was that, that you want to be first. But you wanted to be first having sourced your story and then given someone the right to reply.
I remember a trainer of mine, this would have been 95, and I was on a BBC trainee journalist scheme. He said, better to be second and correct than first and wrong.
Thank you. And what a wise person that was, because it's true. And it's so sad now because you don't get a right to reply for anything and you let things go. I mean, because I'm not going to complain about somebody writing rubbish if it doesn't matter. But then you get to the stage where you think, actually, maybe we should.
So that story you mentioned, well, that's what I was about to ask you. Would you not getting to bother at ITV? You know, if they're reading in the paper, Lorraine off to the BBC.
Probably a few years ago, yes. But now they know that it's just silly.
Right.
You know, and I might say something really innocuous on TV and it becomes like a big thing.
Yes.
And you think, but that's not what I said and that's not what happened.
Well, there's no context, is there, around the quote?
No, there isn't. And it's always show thrown into chaos. You know, thrown into chaos. We've never been thrown into chaos. It's just daft, you know. It just doesn't make any sense. And I feel sorry for the journalists who are having to write that.
Yeah.
Because it can't be very satisfying.
So Chris called it journalism.
Journalism. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
He's a wise man.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Yeah, it's a shame because, you know, when I was a reporter on TV and also in newspapers, geez, we would have got our arses kicked if we came back with a story that wasn't stood up.
Yeah.
You know, sourced, and then where's the right to reply? You haven't gone to that person.
If it was really contentious, I mean, I suppose I was fortunate because I did a lot of mine at the BBC where I know that the legal team's good, but if it was really contentious and it could have gone to court, you then have to spend an hour on the phone to the duty lawyer, even if it was 2, 3, 4 in the morning, to explain what you had, and then allow them to assess the threshold for prosecution.
I know, it's extraordinary now, but people just let it go, you know, because a lot of it is just, you know, is rubbish. It's like, oh, it's Taylor Swift, where's she getting married? And then there's all these things that go on and who's going to be performing, and they just make it up. They literally make it up. But she's not going to sue. Do you know, why would she? She's not going to sue. She's just going to go and have a great wedding and a great life.
What's the thing that... I don't want to do like the most harrowing because I don't want to be harrowing. What's the funniest thing that you've read about yourself that thought that's clearly bollocks?
That the Daily Mail once said that I didn't have a Scottish accent. Oh, well, see, that was my reaction as well. I was laughing as well. They said, I don't have a Scottish accent. I just put it on to sound
telly.
more like a woman of the people. And I was like, mate, I'm from the Gorbals. You know, I'm from Bridgeton. I am actually a Ouija. I'm a pure Glaswegian. Spent a lot of time in Dundee as well. But, you know, that was the most ridiculous.
Do you know what I'd have loved? I would have loved you to do a sketch on some show somewhere where it starts with your closing link to camera on Scottish, and then you come off and you go, all right, lads, nice one. Same time Monday.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, innit? All right then. It is mad. It's completely mad. Wow. And that's when you just think to yourself, they're all crazy and it doesn't matter.
The thing with that is quite clever if you think about it, because it's not, is it defamatory? It's not really defaming your ability to do the job, is it? It's annoying. Yeah, it's like a fly buzzing around your head, isn't it? But it's not going to end up in court, that story, is it?
No. I don't think that, unless somebody was saying something heinous about you that would affect your reputation, or like my mother would be cross about, that would be the only time. And they know that. They know nobody's going to be bothered, that nobody's going to actually take them on.
I love that. That's really made me laugh. It's one of the most Scottish accents I've ever heard ever.
I know. It's so silly. Oh, jeez.
I'm glad you've put now Scottish vernacular in the book.
Yes.
Because of that. Do you know what I mean? I know that's not why you did it, but I'm glad that it's there. You mentioned about, because you were a reporter, weren't you, before you were presenting your own show. Now, tell me if this is true, but I've picked up that there's a scene in the book where one of the characters goes to get a flight somewhere, because the flight's not even an hour, right? With a wind behind you, it's 45 minutes. That is a real flight, and you covered the very first one. Is that true?
We went up to, because I covered the whole of Scotland for TVAM. Right. So, and I was only a kid. I mean, I really was. So I was head of politics, head of sport, head of everything. Head of everything, you know, head of the wee daft bit at the end. And I've always wanted to go to Orkney, and I thought, this would be great. And I found, and the flight is a minute. It's the shortest scheduled flight in the world, and it was a minute. But when we went and did it, it was 45 seconds because we did have the wind at the back. It's from Wee Island.
I thought it was an hour. It's a minute.
No, it's a minute. So it was from Westray to Papawestray, and you can see the landing. Well, it's a field. It was just a wee strip. You can see it as you get in the plane, a wee tiny plane. And I just loved it. I thought, this is brilliant. This is a magical place. I really like it. I've been going ever since.
So what year was that you covered it?
That would have been 1985 we did that.
And here we are in 2026 and it's found a way into your second book.
And I still have not seen everything that Orkney has to offer. There's islands that I've not been to. I've not been to Sandy or Stronsay. But I'm going back again later on this year with my daughter and my granddaughter, because my daughter took her first steps on the island of Shapinsay. Oh, and I've still got the wee pink jumper that I bought her there that she wore. So we're going to put it on Billy and reenact the picture. Okay. So I've got the two pictures beside each other. And
surely you've been in this trade long enough to know not work with animals and children.
Well, she's... Obviously, she's perfection.
She's a pro. She's a pro.
Of course.
It'll be one take.
Absolutely. It'll be all fine. So we'll just take a wee photo of her. But I'm really looking forward to going back with them. I mean, it'll take us ages to get up and down the street, but I'm really looking forward to that. And I do feel sort of accepted up there, even though I'm not from there, because I was doing some shopping in the high street, and Kirkwall High Street's brilliant for wee independent shops, it's amazing. It's got the big cathedral on one side, and it's got the bookshop on the other, and the fantastic deli. And I was toddling down there, and this truck came up. It was like an open, like a truck, what do you call it, pickup truck, came past, and it was a lot of sort of pots and pans were getting banged, and everybody, there was one girl that was just covered in, it looked like tar and feathers, and it was honey and molasses and all the rest of it, and she was getting married, and it was called a blackening.
Yes,
and they came and they just pulled me up. They just said, "You come with us," and I was kidnapped, and off I went all round Orkney, all round like Kirkwall, and then we got to the front of the cathedral, and we took her out and tied her to a post with, I didn't know you could get this, with giant cling film. Did you know you could get cling film almost the size of you?
I'm not sure. I want to know that. It sounds quite niche to me.
We kind of got, I don't know what it's for.
Exactly,
it worked really well to get her round the post, and then we just left her. Left the bride-to-be and toddled off.
Right.
It's just
and that's a tradition, is it?
It's called blackening.
Sounds awful.
And you batter pots and pans and sing. But I felt when I was, when I was kind of lifted onto that truck,
made it.
I'm accepted.
That made it into the first book, did it not?
The blackening did, the blackening did. All these things that are real. And that happen. It's amazing.
So you know what I'm really curious about, and I can tell that you're curious. That's why you've been on the TV for so long, I imagine.
Curiosity is the most amazing thing.
I agree. So you're pulling stuff from, say, 40 years ago, like The Flight. Then we've already established Freya as a composite part of your grandmother.
Yeah.
So how do you go about, because there's a lot of characters in here, because they're a friendship group.
Yeah.
So did you sit down one day, or maybe not one day, but over the course of a period of time, and go, right, I need to create this friendship circle, and how do I make them 3D? How do I make them believable?
Yeah, no, you're right. And also there was that thing of, how do you get quite a different group?
Yes.
But a group of different women of different ages.
Well, because to the reader, they have to stand out. So when you say a character's name, I've got to go, oh yeah, that's the one that does the carving. Oh, that's the medic. That's, you know what I mean?
You do that sort of thing. But also it was to try, and that was why the swimming came into it, because, when you look at a group like a swimming group or a Zumba class or a reading group or, a book club, it's lots and lots of different people that maybe wouldn't have met each other but for the fact that what they've got in common is the swimming or the reading or whatever it may be. So that was always my starting point. But then I really wanted to make sure that all of these women, and men as well, but they had a grounding to, there was some sort of reason for them to be there.
Well, it needs to be relatable, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm keen to know how you did that, because they are relatable, right? So I could very much, I don't know if we'll get onto whether TV are biting at your heels in a second.
I wish.
There's a very cold feet element to this, I think, when I'm with in terms of the group of friendship. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And associating. And when you'd watch that sometimes, and obviously you've got the three main couples, but then it might be that it's the Spanish cleaner that you're focusing on, or it's one of the periphery characters.
Yes.
But the periphery characters are really strong.
Yeah,
I think that would have took some work. I want to know how you achieved that.
Because I really wanted to do, Delima, who's from Singapore, and Jack, who goes over there to work in corporate banking and hates it, and then they come back to open this sanctuary for animals. I was really interested in that because I thought that was really visual. And obviously, my brother lives in Singapore, and my daughter went there for 4 years. So I was backwards and forwards to Singapore all the time. And it was kind of, I do think in future books, if I'm lucky enough to write future books, if people want to read them, Singapore will feature quite heavily, I think, in the Far East, because it's a part of the world I really love, and it's fascinating. Right. But it's amazing, the diaspora. The diaspora of Scotland is huge. All the Scots that were kicked off their land and ended up in Canada and Australia, New Zealand and America. But also the diaspora of Orkney is incredible too. Because when I was down in South Georgia and Antarctica, in South Georgia there's a place called Stromness, which is one of the big... It was a whaling station in Stromness, and that's one of the big towns in Orkney. And when we were camping in Zimbabwe, we were going down the road and there was a sign for Orkney. It was amazing. We followed the road because my husband is an adventurer, so he hires a big truck when we go to Africa, and we sleep on top of it in a tent. It's brilliant. It's absolutely, but I love it. You don't have to.
So what's the base? The back of the truck?
Yeah, on the roof. We sleep on the roof, and then you've got a wee, kind of tiny I don't know what you would call it, just to cook on.
Is it not sweltering?
It's not at night. It's cold at night. Okay, it's actually we've got to snuggle up. in our wee sleeping bags, and it's cold at night time, but yet can be very hot, but not stupidly hot. It's okay. And when we were in Zimbabwe, it was wonderful because the wildlife there's unbelievable, and you can sit for ages.
Any uninvited visitors?
Well, you have to be careful. You do have to be careful. And the thing about it is, here we are talking about toilets again, but for boys, it's dead easy because you basically just do a wee
point and play.
Point and play, exactly. Girls, slightly more difficult, more challenging, understood. I would say. And you don't want to go down to the bottom of the little ladder because you never know what's there. And the thing is about an animal, it just sees a great big giant truck and thinks it's a big animal, a weird smelling animal. Right? But as soon as you break that, like if you come off the truck, it immediately sees you as prey. So you have to be very careful. You have to be really, really careful. Place we stayed in Zimbabwe, it was pretty wild, and it was only after we left and we Googled it and we found out there was a South African guy who'd been killed by a lioness. Oh my goodness. But he wasn't careful. Right, he should have been, poor guy, but so, you have to be really respectful.
Do I assume from the story you told me that you have to make sure you've had a wee before you go to bed?
Absolutely.
And
just hang on.
Right.
Just hang on until daylight. It's the best idea. But we have had such great trips.
How do you prepare for your Zimbabwe holiday? Oh, pelvic floor. Lots of pelvic floor.
You have to do a lot. Do your kegels. Suck up. Do all that. Yeah, but great time. I mean, I love travelling. It's wonderful. And luckily, Steve, he's the same. He really enjoys that. But I was so interested in this. So we went down the road in the truck to see when we saw the sign for Orkney, but there was nothing there. There was nothing there at all. But when I did a wee bit of digging, there was a bunch of Arcadians that went to Zimbabwe even before it was Rhodesia. I don't know what it would have been, Orange Free State or something, or even before that. It was a long, long time ago. And it hadn't quite worked for them and they'd had to leave. But it just shows the pioneering spirit of these people. They end up in the ends of the earth, down in Antarctica, or they end up
travel
in
was harder.
Africa. Yeah, really. I always think that polar explorers were like astronauts. Actually, no, that it was more difficult than that because at least astronauts can communicate with NASA. These guys would disappear for years on end. I mean, they're amazing, absolutely extraordinary people.
I think that will end up in another book.
I'd love to write about Shackleton. I mean, I've got every book written about Shackleton. He's my absolute hero. I think he's the man I'd love to have met.
Right.
And when I was down in South Georgia, we did get to visit his graveside and have an enormous whiskey in his honour, of course. And that was very emotional, actually, because he's an extraordinary man. Still very relevant to this day, his whole style of leadership and everything. And I'd love to sort of weave him into a story. Yeah, it'd be great somehow.
As you mentioned then, being in Zimbabwe, we should probably do the books on the beach questions right now. It's the best holiday you've ever been on. Would that be it, or would it be a different one?
It's difficult. Yeah, that holiday in Zimbabwe was absolutely fantastic. But to be honest, for sheer exploration and I guess seeing things that I never thought I would be able to see, like my first iceberg. And we've all seen penguins in the zoo, and penguins are the bestest wee animals. I love them, wee birdies. But seeing penguins, like thousands of them, all where they're supposed to be, was extraordinary. And then that connection of going to South Georgia and visiting Shackleton's grave, getting a chance to go to the Falklands, which is, the Falklands is just basically Scotland.
Is that work or holiday?
This was holiday. This was just for a trip. We just wanted to do a trip because my husband had known I'd always wanted to do it. Right. So we went there for a silver wedding. And the Falklands, Scotland with penguins, what more can I say? How fantastic. What a country. I'd love to go back there. We weren't there for long enough. I'd really love to go back there. But I think that was my best holiday because of the Shackleton connection, and we sort of followed in his footsteps. We did his journey. Not all the way into Antarctica where his ship got caught in the ice, but we did as much as we could. We did as much as we could.
And best book you ever read? Are you a big holiday reader? Do you like?
Very much so. I tend to, it's funny, when I'm on holiday, I tend to go back, and I think I did this during COVID as well. I reread all my Ruth Rendell's.
Oh, did you?
And I reread The Blessed and Sainted Maeve Binchy, who I adore. Right. I mean, I was lucky enough to interview Maeve, and she's everything that you would expect. When I was writing Freya, I had Maeve's face in my head. Okay. That lovely, she was like a cottage loaf, and she had this lovely round, smiley, happy, jolly face, and she was just one of these people, she'd walk into the room right now and you would instantly feel better. Right. She didn't have to open her mouth. Right. She just had this aura around her, and we all know the opposite because we know people that come into the room and, suddenly it's cold and they've brought their own atmosphere in with them. But Maeve was the exact opposite. So I've reread all of those. But the book I've got by my bedside, and the book that I always refer to, is South by Shackleton. It's a book, it's dog-eared, but it's right by my bedside, and I read that a lot. It's very inspirational, and also it's a cracking story. So
I reckon if there's of those other people, they light a room up when they leave.
Yes, exactly. We know these people.
Yeah.
We know these people. Oh, yes.
So do you know what I'm really getting from you as we chat, Lorraine, is this not just a love of the writing, but a love of reading.
Oh,
that
yeah.
You've been a lifelong reader.
My mum and dad always had books. My mum and dad, when they had me, they were 18 and they had nothing. And for a long, long time, I thought I was a miracle child because my mum and dad got married in July and I was born in November. The same year. So I was like, hang on a minute, counting on my hands. Hang on a minute. God, what an amazing child I was. I was a miracle. But obviously they had to get married. And back those days, that's what you did. You got married, you got someone pregnant, you got married. And they moved into this tiny, tiny little one room in the Gorbals, which my mum made a palace. It was beautiful. But it had a wee recess for the bed and it was an outside toilet and all of that. And then we moved up in the world to the East End of Glasgow, again, Bridgeton, and we had an inside toilet. But my mum and dad taught me to read and write before I went to primary school. And my dad, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, took me by the hand to the library. And I walked into the library, that smell of the library. And there was the whole world. There was the whole world. Felt it was there for me, for the taking, which is why I get so upset about people cutting back on libraries. If councils are cutting back, please do not cut back our libraries.
We take our kids every week.
It's the best thing you can do.
At least once a week they're in the library.
I'm so glad to hear that.
In fact, I'll tell you how good they are. My boys are 7 and 10. And if I take them, I've obviously, because I'm not as good as my wife, I've forgot the card, right? They know their library number off the top of their head. They go, it's all right, Dad, I know the number. And they go to the counter, give their name, date of birth, library number off the top of the head.
You have got 2 fantastic children. You're doing an amazing job. But no, it was great. So reading, I've always been in a house of books. There's always been books around. We've always been encouraged to read and, I've always got a book in my bag. And I did the same with my daughter and she's doing the same with Billy.
Nice.
So I'm reading Billy the Tufty Club from my, from when I had my books. I mean, that's how old I am. But I'm reading all my old books, reading all, Rosie had Each Peach Pear Plum and People and all those ones.
Kids,
So Billy's reading them. I mean, we're reading to her. She's not even 2 yet. But she had those books that you put in the bath, the wee ducks on them that are waterproof. So she's always been grown up surrounded by books. I think it's really, really important, especially now. It's so important to spark their imaginations.
I agree. Other writers have said, Antti Horowitz said that there's people talk about, because the literary rate's dropping off, isn't it? The reading rate's dropping off. But he said to me, it's about, you don't sit down with a child and say, read this. It's not, it's instructive. You just need books all around them.
Just give them to them.
That's what Darren Brown, you're Darren Browning them into reading it. Do you know what I mean?
You are.
Fill the environment with books.
It's there. And that's the same with Billy. Like, she'll wake up in the morning and of course she's not reading. She is a very intelligent child, but she's not actually.
Yeah, she's not a prodigy.
But she's looking at the pictures and she's looking at and she's feeling the books and getting
those texture books are great at that age.
They're fantastic. Really, and we read to her we've read to her every night since she was nothing. We've been reading to her so she gets that love. It's just there, because I don't think you can push children. You're right, you can't push them into doing it, and that can sometimes have the opposite effect. But if you just leave them there to be discovered, because kids are curious, my favourite thing, then they'll do it.
So take me back, Lorraine, to a couple of years ago. Well, probably more than 2, isn't it? Because it came out in 24, the first one, didn't it? So maybe 2 years before that. When you say to people, and even when you said to the media, right, I'm writing a book. There's a huge scepticism around celebrity authors, because the question is, well, you'll know because you've had them on your show. Have they written it or not? It's really clear to me that you've written this. It's really clear.
And it was always going to be that. I was never going to be that. But Phil, I've had people on the show where they've sat down and said to me, don't ask me too much about this. Not only have they not written it, they haven't even blinking well read it. And that's terrible. That's
even for
shocking.
A fiction book.
Mm-hmm. And I think... And I think that's, if they want to do that, that's fine. Right. I don't have a problem with it necessarily. I
have a problem with the dishonesty.
I was just going to say, as long as you credit the ghostwriter.
Correct.
Then that's fine.
Correct.
That's absolutely fine, because you've put your name to it. But yes, you're right. When I said, when I was lucky enough, I did an interview. I think it sort of came about because I did an interview saying I've always wanted to write.
Right.
And then a publisher, somebody must have seen it. Okay. Somebody from Orion, and they saw it and said, oh, hey, come in, we'll have a meeting. And I did a draft, of ideas that I had, and so that they could see whether. And they were right, let's do it, And they had faith in me and trust in me, which was wonderful, because you need that, because obviously not sure, can you really do this? And is wanting to do it enough? Wanting it to do it so much.
But you've written, prior to that, I'm sure I've read columns. You've done columns, right?
I did a column
but that's
years.
Journalism, so that's kind of home turf.
It's different.
And you've done non-fiction books, which again is similar to journalism.
Yeah, it's not, but this was it's totally different.
What's the biggest leap here for someone who's followed your path?
It's all in there. It's all in your head,
right.
And you've got to and you've created it, and it's a massive responsibility, and you've got to do right by your characters as well, but also by your readers.
Did you find your characters were talking to you by book 2?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I didn't quite get that when I first started, that thing of go where the characters take you. And I'm like, what? Is that not counterintuitive?
Well, let me ask you this then. You must have had days where you've sat at the typewriter and you're thinking, right, today's scene is they're going to go for a swim and something will happen in the dialogue, right? And then all of a sudden they turn left without indicating.
Absolutely.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely. And I did it in a really linear way. I didn't do, I know some writers will go, right, I need to get, this is going to be a difficult bit, so I will do that chunk.
Yes.
And then, go back on myself. But I actually went A, B, C, D right to the end. I really did. That's not to say that I didn't go back and rewrite stuff. Obviously I did, and fill out things or cut back things. And I quite enjoyed that process, actually.
How many drafts did you do?
Well, I did a big fat one, and then I sort of tootled about with it for a long time. So numerous. Yeah. But I had the bare bones of it and then just filled it out a bit. But
was it fewer than 150,000 words this time? Did you learn your lesson from book 1?
Oh, yes, I had learned my lesson because... And also, I'd learned not to go down a road that was blocked, that you couldn't get yourself out of it. So you had to kind of reverse and then lose all of that and all of that time.
Well, sometimes you don't know it's blocked, do you?
No, you don't until you get there.
I was struggling writing something recently and called an author friend of mine. And he said, so what's your problem? I said, well, I'm trying to work out how they get from that part of town to this part, but something needs to happen so it's interesting. Right. And he said, so just write on your page, they go to blah. He said, and then come back, because he said, when you sat there staring at it, it'll never come.
No,
it'll come on a run or on the loo or on a walk or whatever it is that...
Absolutely. And I'm kind of the way that I kind of had chunks of time to do stuff, but I would be like, maybe get back from work, do what I had to do, and then maybe start about tea time, maybe 4 in the afternoon.
Oh, right, okay.
And I would and then my husband would come and get me and say, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're up in 3 hours. Maybe time to call it a day. Right. But I got so engrossed. You got so
immersed, you'd bang 9 hours out.
Yeah, I did. Or sometimes it would maybe only be 2 or 3.
Right.
But I know that there are some writers who can be very disciplined and say, right, I'm only going to do an hour. No. I had to, if I was in the zone, I would be really in the zone, and I would just... which is why I found writing when I was off work, when I had a couple of weeks off.
Yeah.
I found that so much better that I could really, really get into it.
Are you looking forward to book 3 then? Because it's been well documented that the TV show, there are going to be fewer of them, aren't there?
Oh,
so you've
absolutely.
got some time back.
Definitely. I've got time to do my real job. My real proper job is babysitting. That's my real job. It's babysitting Billy. And then she is the centre of the universe and everything else revolves around. But yeah, it has, because I'm only going to be, because, very well known that ITV have done all these cutbacks, that I do 30 weeks a year now instead of 50. And it's only half an hour. And of course, I was devastated because it wasn't so much my fat face would only be on the television for half an hour. That doesn't matter. It was that I was having to say bye-bye to an awful lot of my team.
Oh, yeah.
Because an awful lot of them get made redundant. A lot of them have been, we're all still in touch, obviously. They're doing fine. Some of them get taken on by other shows. Everybody's out there doing their own thing. And it's great, and we're all supporting each other. But that was really hard to say bye-bye to
because I assume some of them have been with you for, 15, 20 years more?
Geez. They came to me as babies and then have babies of their own, know, because when a lot of people came to the show, they do stay, which is lovely. Yeah. It's really lovely. Sometimes I would say to them, they say, oh, I've been offered this. I say, go. Spread your wings, you can always come back. And they would, and it was really nice. So, but now it's actually a blessing. I didn't think it would be, but it really is, because I don't have as much time. I don't have to spend as much time prepping and doing my homework because I'm such a sook. I'm such a swot.
Yeah, but it's why you lasted, I think.
You can tell. I'm such a sook. I swat. But
you get found out dead quick if you haven't done it, don't you?
Oh, you do. I can always tell who's not read the book or who has it, or who's just kind of, somebody's given them a list of questions. We're having a really good conversation about the book because you've obviously read it and you know it and you know what you're doing.
Well, my thing with your book, so I have read it and I've got notes, but my notes are in chronological order, but I want to follow you. We've not been in chronological order.
No, we haven't.
But I want you to be able to, I want to know enough so that if you say something, I can go, great, well, I'll follow you for a bit. And then I'll bring it back to one of these other.
that's how it should work. But now, because it is only a half an hour, I've really only got a couple of interviews to prepare for. So it has, in that sense, made life for me a bit easier. And then, a lot of people said, oh, we really miss the hour. But I've kind of thought to myself, well, isn't it better that they're really missing? They're saying, oh, we'd like to see more of you than we're fed up with you.
Yes.
So, So there's I always try and look for the light. So there is more than a bit of light.
Because that's not easy to do in that situation.
No, it was difficult. But at the same time, we're still here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're still here. We're still really enjoying it. I love what I do. It is a privilege. It's like babysitting. To me, it's an absolute privilege. I love it. And I've got so much more time now. I'll spend hours with her just walking about. Well, she's kind of taught. They're like wee drunks before they're two because they just babble rubbish.
It's the Billy Connolly one-legged walk, isn't it, with
totally
the cabal?
It totally is. They're all Billy Connolly drunks, and they're just kind of wobbling about, and it's a joy. It's just lovely.
I can see the joy on your face.
Oh, I
love
it.
Beautiful.
I absolutely love it.
Am I right? I think you've just done another 2-book deal.
I'm definitely doing book 3. I'm definitely doing that for sure.
And is that the same characters?
No.
Completely different?
It's going to be. That's not to say that I wouldn't revisit them, like maybe further down the line, because I do think there's a lot of mileage in these characters, and there is, sometimes I find myself
also you've established the community now.
Yeah.
So now, kind of when they go missing, I'm going to be thinking, well,
what are they doing?
Yeah, are those chairs still being sold?
Yeah, I know. I still think of that as well. I still think, what's going on? What's happening? But yeah, I think
book 3 is a standalone.
It'll be different. It'll definitely be different.
What can you tell me, if anything?
Well, I think there'll always be a wee bit of an Orkney connection. But is it the fact? Is it that Zimbabwe story? Is it the story of the people that have built new lives all over the globe in the way that so many Scottish and Irish people had to do? There's amazing stories in that. So there's so many avenues I can go down. I mean, you're only limited by your imagination, which is the joy of writing fiction, isn't it? And while people still want to read it, and what's been really good now is because there has been the first book. So when I'm out talking about the second book, it's lovely to be able to talk to readers about the first one. And you don't have to have read the first one the second one does stand on its own, but I always think you're going to get a lot more out of it if you know.
Yes.
If you
read the first back one. Very nicely.
It's difficult, isn't it? You don't want to sort of,
No, really, Michael Connolly does it really well. You need to just one paragraph going.
Just a little bit, so that
they
people
used
know.
To about.
Yeah, so that people know a little bit more about it, and so you're not repeating yourself endlessly, because that would be very annoying if you'd read the first book. But I mean, I love sitting talking to people about books generally anyway, and being able to sit here now with 2 books under my belt, I still find it quite difficult to comprehend, because what I do when I'm doing radio or doing telly, it's a way. We're talking about
it's instant, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. It's disposable.
You say it there and it's gone.
Yeah.
But like with a book, you see it in the shop. Yeah. And then one time I saw a woman actually reading it in the airport.
Did you?
I did. And I was so tempted
to go over.
The first one? The first one.
Right.
I was so tempted to go over and say that, hey, that's me. But then I thought, oh no, that's really boasty. So I didn't want to be boasty. So I didn't.
Have you done the thing where you go into a bookshop and you sign copies?
I have done that, and my mother has gone into a bookshop and moved all of my books and put them in front of everybody.
Question,
Mother's done that. Mama
but have you not done it?
No, I haven't. But
Anthony Horowitz told me
I think it would be a bit much.
There are writers who have done it.
I'd get caught. Knowing me, I'd get caught in CCTV and everybody would think I was an absolute idiot. Get her, what's she doing? But yeah, it is wonderful to go into a shop and see it there. It's just like, wow. And especially when it's in amongst all these amazing authors that I admire, it's just really incredible.
I'm certain people watching and listening to this would have known that one of the keys to your televisual success is your authenticity. So I would imagine that was really important for you to transpose that onto the page.
Yeah.
There's an area of storyline here. I'm going to dance around this because I don't want to blow the story. Right. But there's an area that's central to it is coercive control.
Yes.
And I think that's quite a difficult thing to write about, because you have to make the behaviour manipulative enough to be believable.
Yeah.
But not so manipulative that it ceases to be coercive control and becomes something else.
And
do you know what I'm getting
to get a bit panto.
How did you get that so right?
I don't know.
Did you speak to charities? Did you speak to people who had been coercively controlled?
I didn't. Well, I didn't directly for this, but I have done interviews with so many, mainly women, not always women, but I have done interviews in the past with that where people have been manipulated, like you say, or controlled, or, in a relationship it's abusive. You don't have bruises in the outside, you've got them on the inside. So it was to try and get that across, because I think that goes on a lot more than we know, because we never know what people are going through. I always think that when I see people it's been so interesting over the years, the amount of people that I have interviewed where you think they've got golden lives. They know that they're successful, they're rich, they've got the swimming pool and the big cars and all of that going on, and they're deeply and profoundly miserable. And it's astonishing. It really is. I find the people who are happier are the people who have had this crazy fame, it's gone, and then they've rebuilt it, not to that level anymore, but to a level that is livable with, and they can actually enjoy. That old thing about contentment again. And so you never know what's going on in people's lives. You never know what's going on in people's relationships. You might look on the outside that they're having the best time in the world, and it doesn't always have to be, of course, famous people. No. But then they're actually living. They're having hellish times at home. So
one of the things I wanted to highlight, because this isn't a spoiler, it kind of shows this is the way to the behaviour increasing, is Amelia tells Evie that she can't see Freya, but then tells Agnes that Evie wants to go to Aberdeen to a proper hairdresser.
Yes.
And
this is her kind of...
What's clever about that is she's not sure that will get checked back, is she? She's fairly certain that Agnes won't say anything to Evie. Yeah. And I thought it's a really subtle but kind of quite...
it's so damaging.
Yeah.
Because, Agnes is the hairdresser and who always looks after Evie and does her hair so beautifully. And then Amelia wants to get exactly the same. It's a wee bit Single White Female, that movie.
Yeah. Well, that's referenced in the book, isn't it?
Yeah, not completely, but it's kind of a bit like that. She's worming her way into everybody. And she's, with a smile on her face, she's absolutely destroying Evie in front of her friends. And it's that way of, people being really hurt. And, she's thinking, well, why would she go to Aberdeen to get her hair cut when I do it? Oh, and why would she be saying that? And then you start doubting that person.
And there's a number of those, and you incrementally ramp it up.
Yeah.
How did you know you'd got it right?
I don't.
Well, you have. I'm telling you from a reader's perspective, I think you have.
I was just hoping that I did. I was very careful not to sort of go OTT with that, because again with Amelia, you could make her, sort of twirling moustache and being and very evil. And I think you've got to watch with people who are bad, because she is a bad woman. Yeah. She's a awful woman. But again, it's that thing of you do find out why she's like that.
And I think that's really important, because that's the three-dimensional bit, isn't it?
Exactly.
We need to understand even the bad person's motivation.
Oh, totally.
In fiction, not in real life, I think.
No, but
in fiction you have to.
Yeah, you do have to understand, how did that person get to be like that? Why is that person so kind and so caring and so lovely? And this other person who is from the same place is so dreadful. What went on in their lives? And it is absolutely fascinating. I'm endlessly curious about what makes people tick. I think it's just one of these things that I love to do, and I love to sort of talk to people.
I'm endlessly curious about the writing process, because I say you all do it differently.
Totally, and, some people can write for half an hour. I can't do that. No. They'll say, right, I've got half an hour. And I'm like, no. And that's great, because that works for them, but not for me. And that's the joy, isn't it? That everybody's different, and everybody's working in their own way, and everybody's getting there. We all get to the end. Eventually, we get to type the end. But gosh, it's been. But
talking to you today, Lorraine, it strikes me that you've, and it's obvious, really, if I stop to think, because you've been on telly for so long, but you've got this vast array. You almost like you've got a whole library in your mind of interviews that you could tap into, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Either with characterisation or plot.
Characterisation, plot, and that thing of, because for shows like mine, you have to be, there's certain shows where somebody has to be, I am now being a TV presenter, and I am talking like this, and I'm reading it off the autocue. Yeah. With ours, it's all very much like a conversation, and like you're just chatting. And that stood me in good stead for the writing, because to get the dialogue right, because sometimes I think authors have a difficulty with dialogue, and my thing has always been for anybody writing a script, or anybody. And even when I was writing the dialogue, I would say it out loud, just to make sure it sounded right. Yeah. I would make sure that it wasn't sounding flat, or, I don't know, too jargony, or it just didn't sound authentic. That was the thing. It had to sound authentic. And that's really, really important. And I really like writing dialogue. I do enjoy that. I think you can really advance your characters through that as well. You've got to also know what's going on behind. You're thinking. Yeah.
But again, you've met enough people so you can create a wide range of dialogue. Do you know what I mean? It's not all, because also they have to sound distinctive, don't they?
They do.
And that's a trick.
Yes,
in itself,
they do,
isn't it?
because you're I mean, in my book, all of them really, you've got kids in there. Yeah. You've got dogs, who obviously are personalities. You've got cats, and you've got little kids, and you've got older people in their 80s and older. So it's trying to make sure that every generation sounds real. That sounds like that's where they're from, and the references and all of that.
What would you, if I'd have known you at, let's say 25, because you were probably on the telly by then, weren't you?
I was a reporter then, yeah.
So if I'd come up to you on one of your reporting gigs and said, hey, listen, when you're in your 60s, you're going to have a Sunday Times top 10 bestseller. Was it ever a pipe dream in your 20s?
It was a pipe dream, but I would never have believed you. Right. And I wish, looking back, I wish I could have said to that kid, especially when I started presenting, that actually your contract will be renewed every year, because obviously you go through that horrible, horrible time. It's sort of round about, it's usually round about springtime. Are they going to renew it? Are they not? And because you're a taxi for hire, basically. You're a freelance, and you don't know. And I just wish I'd known that. That would have saved me a lot of angst. So I wish I had known that. That would have been good.
Now, here's an idea.
Yes.
It's just an idea,
Go
right?
on then.
But given that ITV have taken half an hour a day off you,
yes,
could they give you that back at 9 p.m. on a Sunday night?
Oh, and unleashed? I could be unleashed?
No, I've heard you talk about that. I know you fancy it, and you're brilliant on the last leg. I'm so surprised that they keep inviting you on.
So
no, I meant a 9 p.m. nice. It's a Sunday night drama, this.
Do you know, it could be. I didn't write it like that, though, and I think if I had written it with a view for it to be on telly, it would be a very different book. Mm-hmm. I think there would be a lot more. There's a lot of dialogue in there, but there would be a lot more dialogue. And
it's eminently adaptable, Lorraine, I think.
It could be adaptable. I mean, they've done Shetland.
The characters are nice. That's what I'm thinking.
It could work. And
Shetland's obviously more murder mystery, isn't it?
Of course it's crime, and beautifully done by Anne. I mean, Anne Cleeves is a fantastic writer who, in her latest book, is about Orkney. Right. It's all going on, you see. They're all coming to Orkney for inspiration. And no wonder. It's great. But yeah, I would love that to happen.
But there's no talk of that yet.
No, I was talking to Reverend Richard Coles. His book's got made into a TV series for Channel 5, and he's an exec producer. And I said, oh my God, what do you do as an exec producer? He said, it's fabulous. They give you a chair with your name on the back and you just sit there and shut up. I was like, great, I can do that. I'd be really good at that. I could sit there drinking tea. But he loved the whole process of it, and that was very successful. And I love his books as well.
Yes.
They're real good escapism.
Yeah.
But hey, you never know. Yeah. You never can tell. Who can tell? You never know you genuinely never know what's around the corner.
No.
I'm constantly amazed and baffled by what goes on.
But you've still got a zest and energy for everything that's around the corner, haven't you? And that's really infectious.
So, I mean, when you say to me I'm in my 60s, and sometimes I think, how did that
you didn't
happen?
mind that?
No, are you kidding? No, God, I don't care. I mean, my next birthday, I'll be 67, and I think, how did that happen? That's crazy. I don't feel it, and I hope I don't seem it.
No, you don't seem it.
But I think that a lot of that is to do with working with people that are really young and keep you young and keep you sort of, tell you what, and listening to music that's young and being curious about stuff. I think curiosity keeps you young as well. And I love the fact that Elton John still, he's always encouraging young musicians and encouraging people, and I love that, because I always think as well, that I always try and encourage people, because if you get to a position where you've learned a lot and hopefully acquired a peedy bit of wisdom, pass it on. That's like Marion Keyes. She doesn't sit there, this massively successful author sitting there on her laurels. She is helping young writers, writers that haven't been published, writers that have been published. She just helps. And I love that generosity. And you really get that in the publishing world, especially amongst women authors, actually. They've got this thing of, we're all in this together, girls, and we need to help each other. And I love that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I really do. I've really
more
been
collegiate than TV, is it?
Yeah, I think so. I do. I think very much so, actually.
Who else helped you out then? You mentioned Marion Keyes. Was anyone else?
Well, Maeve, when she was with us, was a brilliant. She would help everybody. She would absolutely help everybody. But I think Maeve stands out for me very much so. And I did an event with her where she was talking about her work, and it was fantastic. It was like when I interviewed David Attenborough. You just want to sit at these people's feet and soak up their knowledge.
100%.
You just think, what a privilege, how lucky to actually be getting all this from people.
Yeah.
David Attenborough.
I know.
The best.
I might blush, but I feel exactly the same way, Shane, and I with you. I knew you'd say that. You don't like it coming back, do you?
Yourself. I'm not very good at all of that. I get all Scottish and silly and
that's fair
behave,
enough.
I say.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm a huge admirer of what you've, and the longevity with which you've done what you've done.
It is incredible.
It is incredible.
When you think 40 years, I mean, and it's all gone into one great big blob. I just remember, it's all gone into one great big mass. And there's been so many regime changes and so many name changes, but essentially, you're just telling stories, or you're allowing people to tell their stories. More of that, and people trust you to tell their stories, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
This has been huge.
Oh,
thank you very much for bringing season 1 to a wonderful conclusion. And congratulations on this.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this. And this it is very visual. I think, in my view, it needs to go to TV. And I'm really intrigued now to get book 3 from you, because it's not this, right?
No, it's going to be very different. I think there will be a nod in the direction of Orkney.
Right.
You might hear a few voices that you know,
okay.
but I think it has to be going down a different road.
Right. Lorraine Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For doing Books on the Beach. You've got a job before you go. Will you make sure that you like, subscribe, all the stuff that you have to do? I'm sorry, but please do it, because you help to manipulate the algorithm, and then you can get me further up the chart. And will you do me a favour? Tell 3 of your mates that you've just watched a lovely episode with Lorraine Kelly, or you just listened to it, right? And get them to listen to it as well, and then we can grow this, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be back for season 2. Catch you soon.
Absolutely. You've got to have season 2. That'd be great. That was so nice. God, that was so nice. That was just lovely.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.